that, I'm going to turn it over to our presenter today, Steve Sutter with Creatability, to talk about their employment pathfinders. Thank you all.
Okay, well, thank you again, Dustin, for providing this. It's a wonderful resource to really help people stay connected with all the new things that are constantly changing, all the different vendors you work with. It's really an awesome job. So thank you for letting us talk today. Basically, what we're talking about is an employment pathfinder tool. So what we've found is that when we are able to help people get real jobs with real wages, it really changes everything in their life. And so many of you that are dialed in today, I really applaud you because you're the front line, you're the heroes, and what a change it makes when you can help an individual with intellectual disabilities get the right fit for the right job is just a wonderful thing. So thank you for all that you do. I do want to invite any questions all along the way. If you have something going on that you want to ask about right then, please do. And you're probably each thinking about someone that you're serving now or working with. And as that persona emerges in your idea, how this might apply to them, we'd love to hear that too. Or we're available afterwards, after this event, to handle your questions as well. So real jobs, real wages, and really helping the individual with an informed choice with self-determination, so they can be part of the employment process. Many of you use person-centered planning as part of the employment search or the career exploration. If you're not currently using one and you want to hear about others, we have one in the area for helping people using positive psychology methods. It's a mobile app with a web content as well. So people can edit their person-centered plan and it shows up immediately on their phone, accessible so they could listen to the plan at any time. A little plug there, thank you. But we're talking today about Matthew Schepler. He's had an office job in the past. He's had employment in the past, and it didn't always work out. Maybe it wasn't the proper fit, but boy, he still has goals of getting his own place someday, moving out with another roommate, having more money, and really just feeling like he's he's a valued person in the planet by working and helping make the world a better place. But he does need some help. He does need some supports in the area of memory, sequencing, executive function kind of things. So anything that I'm talking about today is, as Matthew's exploring different jobs, we never say, no, Matthew, you can't do that. We just say, for that job category, if you want to explore that, we've got some work to do. And here's a listing of what that might be that we need to bridge. Now, his job coach or employment specialist is Cheryl. She needs to have a perfect fit. The better she can get more people into the perfect fit for their jobs, the less work on her, because she's got a full caseload as well. And she wants to be able to fade this employee. And if she was a job coach, she'd want to be able to fade them. And there's other technologies that we'll talk about in a minute that might help them do that as well. It's part of a process. So we have in this preparation phase we're talking about today is where we'd have Employment Pathfinder for that pre-employment phase. Then as they get a job, and I'm just saying that's a little arrow on this slide, it's a huge job that you guys do. So again, thank you. But as they're in that job, we want to make sure that they have the right tools and strategies and tactics to be able to be successful there. And then, as you know, about 50% of the IDD population in the Midwest and across the US as well have behavioral health challenges as well. So how do we keep our finger on the pulse of what's going on there? And we'll just lightly touch on that today as well. So if I can get my PowerPoint to advance, and it's still advancing well, I assume. And by the way, I am let me know if I have broccoli in my teeth kind of guy. So Dustin, if you see something, or Carrie, please let me know.
You're good.
Good. Uh, so as we're getting into that job exploration process, we want to be able to look at the different facets that would really help in a great job placement. And what those are is in job readiness, as well as job interests. And for those areas that Matthew's expressed an interest in, does he have the skill set to perform that job? And again, doesn't have to be, no, Matthew, you can't do that job. It's just, here's ways you're going to have to bridge those gaps between his current skill level and the skill level required for that job. And that's what we get is a actionable plan. It's a PDF downloadable form, has a lot of detail. It starts out with a summary page. We'll get into that in a second, what it looks like. So for the employment specialist, career counselor, everyone involved in the placement is one login, one persona that you log into the system. And then the individual gets to log in a simplified web form. They don't have to know passwords. They don't have to know URLs to type in. They just simply can go right into a certain website, and it can allow them to answer those questions about their perspective and how they could do different things and what they're interested in. And we'll get into some examples there. That's available as both a web form for them, for those that are higher functioning. And for those that really need it, there's a talking assessment tool that's an app that runs on their mobile phone or a tablet. So let me get into a demonstration here of how that might look. And this runs on anything, any type browser, of course, but I'm going to go to our Beam system, and I'm going to select a demonstration. Timed out there. For security, it's HIPAA compliant, so it times out on us. And here's an assessment where we've completed everything. Again, there's the persona of someone else, as well as Matthew himself can log in and answer all these questions. So just an overview, here's the onboarding section, work history, interviewing, comfort with technology. Is there anything we could leverage on Matthew's previous history with technology? And then work readiness. If he hasn't had a job in the past, is he spending 6 hours a day playing video games and sitting on a couch? That's not going to be really helpful when he has to be in a position where he has to be there on time, stand 4 to 6 hours at a time sometimes. Those kind of things. Let's look at all those things that we need to do to get Matthew ready. And then explore those job interests. And then for those interest areas, does he have what it takes to do those kind of things? There's a report that's generated. It takes about 20 seconds, uses some AI to look at those gap areas between the ideal answer and where Matthew is. And then you can put your logo into our system. It always pops up at the top that way of every form. And here we see a summary of Matthew's readiness as he expressed it, as well as someone else weighed in his interviewing capability, his comfort with technology, and what are the job areas he really was interested in: housekeeping, restaurant work, and warehousing. When he did the skill assessments, we found some areas where he was lacking in some of the areas, and someone else agreed pretty much consistently with his assessment. It then goes into the full details. This shows you the different categories that we are assessing the individual within the job interests as well as the general capabilities. And then it goes into point by point of where those specific job categories of interest and where those skill gaps were. In other words, in the general area of work history, when looking at general things, he doesn't really have a transportation plan So we need to do that. He struggles with some flexibility issues. Well, in the area of behavioral health, he might need some coaching skills. He might need some behavioral health counseling. And specifically, when he was asked about how well does he adjust to things on the fly, he didn't answer in a way that we really want him to, where we want him to be. Again, this goes through all those different areas in quite a bit of detail and is all summarized in a very easy to read report that's downloadable as a PDF. Each area is rated on the percent. What did he have what it took in each category. And at the very bottom of each one, it summarizes the count of the number of times that Matthew needs different accommodations. In this case, picture lists. He needed 30 different situations where he could benefit from picture lists, checklists, video modeling 23 times, sequencing prompts where you do step A and then you do step B. And each of these are shown in a Pareto graph to get you an idea, an overview of just how big and how substantial are those support mechanisms we're going to need to add for Matthew to be able to do this job in this way to the degree that we want him to be. This could be used as ongoing performance evaluation tool after Matthew's in the job as well. Let me stop right here for a moment and ask, are there any questions that we should address at this point?
We did have a question that was sent just to us panelists, so I'll repeat it just so that everybody else can hear. We had a question, how many job interest areas are there? And Carrie has responded with 15 plus common job interests currently, adding to that continually. Is that, yeah?
That's correct. Within each of those 15 job types are 45 different facets within that job. So if you selected hotel guest room preparation, it shows different facets of what it's like to be cleaning the bathroom area versus making a bed versus vacuuming the floor, those kind of things. So these little video vignettes, and I'll show you several of them, give you those at a high level with the job types, what's some examples of doing that job. So they really get a way to really get a comprehensive overview on what's going to take to do this job and would they like it or not.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Hey, Steve.
Yes.
We had one more too, and I may be able to answer that, but I just wanted to make sure. We've got someone who asked, do we have any practice questions that help youth and adults answer questions around their disability? And I know what the answer to that is, but it might lead you into another section regarding the job coach taking it as well. So I didn't want to step on your toes with answering that one or get too far ahead of us.
Okay. In general, Employment Pathfinder is a tool for the job counselors, those in the career discovery, to look at the jobs that Matthews of the world can use, and doesn't have that part built out other than examples such as interviewing skills. Have you ever practiced interviews? Have you ever, do you know how to present yourself well in an interview? Do you know how to dress appropriately and act appropriately in an interview? So there are those kind of questions, but more as a job fit or a process fit. Are you ready for employment? Is that close to the way you wanted to answer, Gary? I hope so. Well, let me get back to the actual Employment Pathfinder. So as we talked about, there's ways that the individual themselves can also weigh in, and that's done from their perspective. So let me do a screen mirroring here with my iPhone. And all you do is send a little code and a little message. You have a little ability to send a link to that individual. Let's say this one. And here was the link sent earlier. And as you can see, it takes me right into being able to take these same assessments. I can start any of these, such as comfort with technology, and I can answer right here on my phone. How do you feel when you think about using technology? Was it frustrating? We need to know that. Or was it satisfying? As you're thinking about other words that might express your previous experience with technology, I'm going to say somewhere in the middle. And as they answer all these, the data is stored. They're always invited to save their answers for later, or when they're completed with that section and it shows a check mark in that part of the process, you get to see where they are in the process. Now, as an employment specialist or counselor or DSP that's supporting Matthew in this case, you can always monitor how Matthew's interviewing things, how he's answering various things, and that can give you cues. Before Matthew's ever selected any specific job interest, let's say that maybe he's so early in the process, he doesn't even know what would be good for him. He could go in and take the general assessment on, well, let's look at a high level here. Do you like to work with people or not, or things? Do you see yourself as more of a thinker or a doer? Do you like to work inside or outside? And those kind of things are all available here. There are no wrong answers. We just have a goal of where we want Matthew to be, and we just show you that report with that gap analysis and then suggesting ways you could bridge that gap in the report. Well, let me turn that off. Stop mirroring and get into another way that we can do this. And for this, I'm going to temporarily stop sharing my screen and share my other screen. And hopefully that would be what we want. Oh, here it is. Share this screen. Now, hopefully you're able to see something called warehouse skills. So good so far? And here the individual, I don't know if you can hear that. Sometimes selecting the app, I'm running on an emulator on my Mac here. Sometimes it doesn't really fold through the audio component, but I don't know if you can hear that, but it reads the question. And as Matthew selects each answer, it's voiced to him. And that you can turn that off if you need to, but it gives people who are not strong readers a way to also weigh in on their answers. Once they've explored the different answer options, they find the one that fit well. And they just simply go through that. If at any time they run out of power on the app, on the mobile device that they're running it on, or they get bored with this, it always saves exactly where they left off. So they can always return back to that position and look at what's available. The same 3 categories that we saw on the website for the coaches and career counselors, job discovery individuals. And this can be used even in high school in your last final years. Project Search has used a variety of our tools over the years. They may want to use something like this to begin that career planning in high school. But all the onboarding questions are all the same. The job interest gives a little bit more embellishment where I can see a little bit more detail. And Matthew, after watching a video, let's say I want to watch this one, it gives a full video on here's one facet of that job in the area of cleaning using the proper products. After they get through watching each of these videos, he gives it a thumbs up, thumbs down, or somewhere in the middle. And then we present that in the job skill areas as he's answering each of those relative questions around that category. So that's kind of the quick overview then of the app. So we've talked about the job seeker perspective. If they use, for those with higher functioning, they can use the website approach on a web app on a device, or the full app on a mobile device here, or the someone else in their life. And we call someone else anyone else that isn't the job seeker. They each weigh in, and it gives a really full, comprehensive overview on all the different facets of the seeker as they're ready for this area. So I'm going to stop sharing for a moment there and reshare the PowerPoint slides. I think was this one. Does it look right? Yes. So again, the app always saves where they left off. They don't have to worry about saving on the website. They always have to save their work or submit a survey or a assessment. On the app, it always does that for them. It keeps a local database. And when they submit and they're in the presence of internet, it will upload that data to the cloud. The someone else in their life gives them a special key, and that's how the app is associated with the someone else group view of the Employment Pathfinder web-based tools. So that's kind of the overview of how it all works. There are a variety of, it's always could be localized as well if we need to. There's a lot of Spanish speakers that we may want to support in the future. We're working on that version. And whatever text-to-speech you've enabled on your device, whether it's Siri, whether it's in the Android family, you have a lot of different choices. And some of those are Amazon Polly voices, so very, very high quality voices. As Carrie mentioned, there's these 15 job categories plus the general one and the different facets within each of those categories. Short videos, again, are always available there throughout the process. They can always review them, remind themselves on what's involved in that again, and go through a quick assessment to really see, would I even like that job? And if so, do I have what it takes to do it? Now, one of our buddies over in Ohio, Capabilities, they found that what typically you'll find in this kind of area is that a lot of people have time management issues. A lot of them have, initiation, execution, and follow through issues. And that's why a lot of our reporting structure is built in there to give you suggestions, examples, and strategies and tactics and tool suggestions that you could use to help bridge those gaps. In those different areas, we found that people needed, when we're in the employment phase, they needed tools. We have one called MeMinder. There's several available. We're not restricting the use of any one of them. The report is generic in that it doesn't recommend a certain vendor's tool. It just recommends this type of tool, such as talking picture lists. Some people, sometimes you don't even need technology. Some people can do quite well with a laminated picture card that you just use a grease pencil and check them off as they performed each step in the process. Certainly, if you needed 50 of those kind of jobs, then you might want to think about automating that in technology. And that's why we've worked with the federal government for 20 years now, developing technology. All the products we offer here, including this one, is the result of that evidence-based research over 20 plus years of researching in this space. So through that, we've had the opportunity to meet many of you and learn a lot about you, but that pretty much wraps up what I wanted to talk about today. What kind of questions do we have in the chat?
Actually, Carrie's been doing an amazing job of kind of answering the questions as they were coming in.
Thank you, Carrie.
Yeah.
Great.
We do have a few minutes left. If anybody else has any questions, please feel free to throw them in the chat and we'll get those in. Were there any questions that were asked specifically just to us that we can repeat to the audience maybe? Carrie, that I see that some of your responses around pricing, there was a question that came in about pricing and then you were, yeah, so.
Great. And Carrie probably topped on that one. And then I'll get to our info page where you can please reach out. That's my actual personal cell phone. Please use it.
I'm not seeing it yet, Steve.
Oh, it turns out you have to share screen.
That's the broccoli and the teeth moment you were talking
Yes,
about, right?
it
Okay.
is.
Just making sure.
It is. Steve Sutter at Creatability Concepts, Steve at createabilityinc.com, or my cell at 317-777-0356. Love to hear your questions. Love to hear if you think this might be usable or how it could be integrated into your programs and your systems that you have in place. That's always been our goal, is to integrate with your plan, not produce a new thing that's a whole new avenue, a new strategy of thinking, but integrate well with what you're already doing.
Steve, I'm always impressed with what you guys do. You have, as we were talking about even before we got started, it's great to see that you're creating these new types of things still on top of all of the other things that you've already created. We did just have a question come in. Have you added ASL into the questions instead of just text questions for the assessments?
No, we haven't. Those will be presented when we get to that phase as little videos themselves to ask the questions. I do have a question back for you, if you could suggest how the individual would answer. Is it okay if we provide little cues in English of what each of those answer options are, and they tap on those after they viewed the ASL of that answer? Or do you have any other suggestions on what to do there?
Yeah, good question. And Steve, I can connect you with the person that was asking that, but she's a fast typer. Sometimes
yeah.
vocabulary is lower, but pictures are best, or video showing that idea. So.
Okay, right.
Wonderful.
Okay. Great. Great questions.
Yeah, great questions. Thank you for the participation today. And Steve, Carrie, thank you very much for jumping on to do this and being very cognizant of the time. Much appreciated.
You bet. We even gave you back 1.5 minutes. Whew.
Good. I'm going to hit the road right now.
Okay.
Well, thanks
Thank
everybody
you, everyone.
for joining us.
Thank you for attending, everyone.
Yeah, Carrie, thanks for answering the questions in the chat.
No
And,
problem.
we do have another tech huddle next week. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but go to disability.com. What is it?
Echo.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we have Alice Bruhard from Glenwood Springs, Colorado. Going to talk about.
She's wonderful.
Yeah,
she's one of our customers.
Previous tech huddles. So,
yeah.
Well, thanks again, Steve, Carrie, everyone for joining us, and have a great day.
Have
You
great.
too.
Bye.
Bye.